Today, we are undertaking a massive journey. We are going to deconstruct the invisible engine that powers your daily life, the twin forces of market economies and globalization. You might think these are just dry textbook terms, but look at the screen. That globe, connected by lines of light, represents how trade shapes our world. From the coffee you drank this morning to the device you're watching this on right now, an incredibly complex web of decisions, prices, and logistics made it possible. Over the next 50 minutes, we are going to break down exactly how markets work, why nations trade, and the massive benefits and serious risks of a globalized planet. Let's dive in. First, we have to define the rules of the game. What exactly is a market economy? In its purest form, it is an economic system where the tough decisions, what to produce, how much to charge, are made by individuals and businesses, not the government. This is often called capitalism or free enterprise. The engine here is self-interest and choice. Unlike a command economy, where a central authority dictates production, here, millions of people making small choices create a functioning system. It is powered by the fundamental forces of supply and demand. Think of it like a massive supercomputer made of human interactions, calculating the best outcome without anyone actually being in charge. Now, how does a system with no boss actually work? For that, we turn to Adam Smith. In 1776, the same year the U.S. declared independence, Smith published The Wealth of Nations and introduced the concept of the invisible hand. The idea is counterintuitive but brilliant. When you pursue your own self-interest, trying to earn a living, build a business, or find the best deal, you inadvertently benefit society as a whole. You don't bake bread to feed the hungry. You bake it to make a profit. But by working for yourself and providing that good, you help the entire economy function and grow. It's the ultimate win-win scenario that forms the bedrock of modern economics. Let's get technical for a moment. Look at this graph. This X-shape is the most famous diagram in economics: supply and demand. The line going up is supply. That's how much product exists in the market. The line going down is demand, how much people actually want to buy. Where they cross, at that point labeled E, is the magic moment called equilibrium. This occurs at the perfect price point, where the amount companies want to sell matches exactly what you want to buy. If the price is too high, nobody buys. If it's too low, there's a shortage. The market naturally hunts for this center point without any government official having to set the price tag. So we have a market. What keeps it healthy? The answer is competition and innovation. In a market economy, businesses don't just exist, they fight. They compete fiercely for you, the customer, by lowering prices, improving quality, and offering superior value. This competition forces them to innovate. It drives progress because companies must invent new things to solve problems better than their rivals. The slide mentions the battle between the iPhone and Android. That rivalry pushed smartphone technology forward faster in a decade than almost any other technology in history. Without that pressure to compete, we'd probably still be using flip phones. We've talked about businesses, but who holds the real power? It's you. This concept is called consumer sovereignty. The phrase often used is, "the customer is king." In a market economy, you hold the ultimate power because you vote with your wallet every single day. Every time you buy a coffee from shop A instead of shop B, you are voting for shop A to survive. If nobody buys a product, that business has two choices: adapt and change, or face inevitable failure in the marketplace. It sounds harsh, but this vote ensures that resources only go to the companies that actually make people's lives better. Now, let's zoom out. We aren't just local markets anymore. We are living in the era of globalization. What is it? It's the increasing interconnectedness of the world's economies, cultures, and populations. It happens through three main channels: trade, technology, and information flow. You might have heard the phrase, "the world is getting smaller." That's what this means. International trade and instant communication have made borders much less significant to commerce. A designer in London can send a file to a factory in Shenzhen and have it shipped to New York in days. The physical distance hasn't changed, but the economic distance has collapsed. How did this happen? It wasn't magic. It was specific advancements. Look at the slide on the causes of globalization. First, transportation. Revolutionary changes like massive container ships and cargo planes made moving stuff remarkably cheap and efficient. It used to be too expensive to ship cheap goods halfway around the world. Not anymore. Second, technology. The internet enables instant communication and money transfers worldwide. And finally, politics. Governments signed trade agreements that opened borders between nations, allowing goods to flow as freely as data. I want to take a minute to appreciate the image on this slide. These metal boxes, shipping containers, are the unsung heroes of the modern world. Before them, loading a ship took weeks. Now it takes hours. This efficiency is the backbone of imports and exports. Exports are the goods your country sells to others, bringing money in. Imports are what you buy from abroad, with money flowing out. The difference between these two numbers is the trade balance. Without the logistical network you see in this image, that global exchange of wealth simply freezes. But why trade at all? Why doesn't every country just make everything they need? The answer lies in specialization and comparative advantage. This economic rule says countries should focus on producing what they do best. Look at the example. Florida grows oranges because it has the sun. Idaho grows potatoes because it has the soil. Then they trade. If Idaho tried to grow oranges in greenhouses, it would be wildly expensive. By specializing in their strengths and exchanging goods, global production and efficiency dramatically increase. We get more stuff for less money by letting regions do what they are naturally good at. Of course, trade isn't always simple. There is a constant political battle between free trade and protectionism. Free trade tries to remove restrictions, creating open markets. Think of agreements like NAFTA or the USMCA. The goal there is efficiency and lower prices. On the other side is protectionism. This is when a government tries to shield domestic industries from foreign competition. The debate centers on a difficult trade-off. Do we want lower prices for consumers, or do we want to protect specific local jobs from disappearing? There is rarely a perfect answer. If a country decides to go the protectionist route, how do they do it? They usually use tariffs and quotas. A tariff is essentially a tax on imported goods. It makes the foreign product more expensive, which encourages you to buy the domestic alternative instead. Then there are quotas. These are hard limits on the quantity of goods that can be imported. This directly restricts competition to protect local producers. While this helps the local factory, it often means you, the consumer, pay a higher price at the register. Who are the biggest players on this global chessboard? They are the multinational corporations, or MNCs. These are giants like Nike, Apple, McDonald's, and Coca-Cola that operate in multiple countries simultaneously. The scale of these companies is hard to comprehend. Some MNCs possess more wealth and economic power than entire nations. This gives them enormous global influence. When they decide to move a factory, the GDP of a small country can crash. When they decide to invest, a region can boom. They are the true architects of the global economy. Let's ground this in reality with the global sneaker. Look at the shoes on your feet. They tell a story of globalization. A shoe might be designed in the USA, say in Oregon, by creative teams envisioning the style. But the materials? The leather might come from Brazil, the rubber from Thailand or Indonesia. Then, all these pieces are shipped to a factory in China or Vietnam for assembly. A single shoe travels further before it reaches the store than most people travel in a lifetime. It is a collaborative effort spanning 3 or 4 continents. This global assembly line relies on 2 strategies: outsourcing and offshoring. Outsourcing is when you hire an external company to handle tasks like customer service. Offshoring is when you move your entire factory to a different country. Why do companies do this? The primary driver is almost always money, reducing costs and maximizing profits. They are taking advantage of cheaper labor in developing nations. This keeps the price of your phone or sneakers low. But it raises significant ethical questions about wages and working conditions. All these moving parts create what we call global supply chains. These are complex networks of suppliers, manufacturers, and logistics companies. To save money, they use a method called just-in-time delivery, which minimizes storage costs by having parts arrive exactly when needed. But this efficiency comes with a major risk. Because there is no backup stock, a single disruption, like a pandemic, a blocked canal, or a natural disaster, can break the entire chain. We saw this recently. One glitch, and suddenly production halts globally. Now we need to look at the impact of this system on people. The impact on labor varies wildly depending on where you live. In developed nations, we often see manufacturing job losses as factories move away, though we gain opportunities in service and tech sectors. In developing nations, the story is different. They gain factory jobs, which brings money in. But these jobs often come with low wages and poor conditions. Economists call this the race to the bottom, as countries compete to see who can offer the cheapest labor to attract MNCs. There is also a price paid by the planet. Look at this infographic about garbage at sea. Shipping goods globally creates a massive carbon footprint. Furthermore, wealthy countries often relocate their polluting factories to poorer nations to avoid strict environmental laws. We are also seeing resource depletion accelerating through overfishing and deforestation to fuel our worldwide consumption patterns. The graphic shows millions of metric tons of plastic entering the ocean. This is the hidden environmental tax of cheap, globalized goods. Globalization isn't just about money and plastic. It's about ideas. This is cultural globalization. The spread of media and brands creates what sociologists call McDonaldization, where Western culture increasingly becomes the standard everywhere. You can find the same fast food and pop music in Tokyo, New York, and Mumbai. The benefit is a shared understanding and connection between people, but the risk, we risk the loss of unique local traditions, languages, and cultural identities as everything blends into one global monoculture. Finally, look at the last slide. What's your choice? The future of the global economy is changing. We are seeing a trend called reshoring, where factories are brought back home for security. But these factories won't bring back the old jobs. Automation and AI are replacing cheap overseas labor with robots. Simultaneously, there is growing momentum towards sustainability. Consumers are demanding ethical production and green supply chains. The future isn't just about cheaper and faster. It's about being secure and sustainable. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you now see the invisible lines connecting you to the rest of the world.